We're at 7 o'clock.
No, you're on now.
Oh, yeah. I will call to order the South Washington County Telecommunications Commission. Tonight is July 28th, 2022 at 7 p.m. and we are holding our regular commission meeting. First is a call to order, roll call.
Yes, Councilmember Date,
Present.
Commissioner Rom, Councilmember Olson,
Here.
Councilmember Engelmann,
Here.
Commission Director Olson,
Present.
Councilmember Thiede,
Here.
Commission Director Downs.
Here.
That's the commission directors present, Madam Chair, and we also have our attorney, Mike Bradley,
I'm here, yes.
and staff members, Elena Myers and Megan Myers and Lonnie Garland, helping us with the production.
Excellent. And just to confirm, do we have a quorum for tonight's meeting?
We do have a quorum.
Excellent. So next I'll be looking for approval of the agenda.
Move the agenda.
Second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Do we have any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the agenda is approved. Our next item on the agenda is public comment period. Do we have anyone in the audience here for public comment? We do have some guests in the audience, but none for public comment, so we'll move on to our next agenda item, which is the consent agenda, and I'll be looking for a motion to approve that.
Move consent.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and can you do the roll call, please?
Sure.
Or do we need to roll call for the, oh, okay. Then all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The consent agenda is approved. All right, the next order of business is our reports, and the first one is from our Executive Director Martinez.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair. We will start off the report with our capital projects, and we're wrapping up near completion on all the projects we had planned for the year. We're waiting for the City of Newport. Its first meeting is scheduled August 4th, and all the AV equipment is installed and been tested. We are waiting for a Comcast connection there to be what we call to be lit up, if you will. So we have the internet there, and it's looking like everything's on track. So we'll be ready for that August 4th, next Thursday, a week from today, in the new City Hall. Really exciting. Other than that, all the projects have been wrapped up. We do have one for consideration this evening with the City of St. Paul Park, and that's pending approval for Q3. And we'll also be looking at a budget adjustment in a couple areas later this evening. Tonight, we have Harrington Langer Associates, CPA Anna Anderson here to give the financial audit. We also have a report from Comcast this evening with Megan Shays in attendance. Strategic plan implementation, just want to mention that we've recently had a community engagement event at the Community Education Schoolie event last week. And we do have Ann Schweisguth in attendance remotely as well. She'll be reporting that on her report. And our quarterly newsletter is scheduled to go out tomorrow. We have some new revenue from outside work for hire. We've contracted with Marriage Reconstruction Ministries for an August-September production beginning. It's a six video series with them for over the course of the next year or so. At least through the end of this year, for sure. We're starting off with the first two and then completing the next four later. Human resources, we'll be looking at the HR flexible workplace policy this evening and recommending a vote on that. We also will have some financial policies for approval this evening, and we'll review those with our attorney, Mike Bradley. I did want to let everyone know about the Community Voices grant, that the deadline for the application period ended on June 30th, and we received one applicant. Unfortunately, the applicant didn't qualify for the grant. And it had been a really great process the whole way through. We did some very interesting and new things for us, talking about the grant and making it available for our the diversity in our area. We did a lot of work promoting the grant through social media and sharing it with our member cities. We did a number of things like the Woodbury Chamber Expo, promoting it there. We placed it in the Cottage Grove paper. We sent out a number of informational collateral to our network of friends in the industry, educators at Century College. The one thing I certainly didn't get around to was really what I call kind of boots on the ground, or face-to-face engagement. We did some at the Community Expo and the new resident event in Woodbury, but we could have done a lot more of that. I think the lack of response really was a great learning opportunity for us, in that we learned that people didn't really make the connection of who we are to the grant, and getting out there in person would have been, I think, just brought a lot more credibility to the grant opportunity and who we are. And so the recommendations I've received is to work with those kind of, I think it was Commission Director Olson at the executive meeting talking about finding community brokers that will really introduce us into the communities that don't know who we are yet. So we're working on that. I recently had a conversation with Sawashco founder, which was really exciting. I have a meeting set up with Shelley Schaefer of the City of Woodbury, who's a community engagement person, newly hired, and Councilmember Date has introduced me to a couple of people as well. So we're going to try it again. We'd like to do one more round of the grant opportunity starting this fall and implement those further steps, and hopefully find somebody that we can award it to. So I would ask for the commission's support with that going forward. We had hoped to start working with the individual in August through October, so now we're going to push that back to probably January or February to March, April is what we're looking at. So the new deadline, if it's posted again, would be probably the end of November. So that way we can go through a selection process in December before the end of the year. Like I mentioned, I have an initial conversation with one of the Sawashco Cares founders. They're interested in using our new studio space for audio projects such as podcasting and potentially community radio programming too. So it was a very interesting conversation. Yeah, so a lot going on. The staff's been really great, doing just tremendous work. We recently had a clip lunch the other day, and the work they're doing is just fantastic. So really proud of everybody. So that's my report for this evening. Happy to take any questions.
Excellent, thank you. Any questions? Okay, we'll move on to the next item, which is a report on the Comcast Xfinity agreements.
Yes, we are pleased to have Megan Shea with Comcast join us this evening to give us a report on Comcast. Thank you. Sure.
Hello, good evening. Thank you for having me. My name is Megan Shea, and I am newish with Comcast, so I'm here to introduce myself in part tonight. I've been with Comcast almost a year, and I joined their government affairs team. So I think you guys are probably familiar with working with Carly or Kate Hensing. Kate's still with us, moved into kind of a communications role, but I work with Carly in government affairs. And a few things have been going on at Comcast that we'd love to update you on. One of the biggest pieces that we've been working on is our Internet Essentials ACP program. So if you aren't aware, the federal government passed the Affordable Connectivity Program, ACP, and it is a $30 credit that folks who are income constrained can access to help with their broadband bill or even mobile bills. So if you partner that with our, with our Internet Essentials program, you can essentially get a great broadband internet package for free. And we're really trying to get the word out there and work with our partners, our school districts, our communities, to let people know that that program is available and can get them connected to do all the things that people need to have broadband when they have broadband at their house: school, telehealth, working, whatever they might need. So I brought some information that I will leave behind for you just so you can help spread the word on Internet Essentials. And we're happy to provide materials for community events, whatever you might need. But that is a big program that we're working really hard to make sure that people can take advantage of, because we know that getting connected is sometimes the barrier. And if they don't know about the program, they can't do that. So that's one piece that we're working on pretty hard. The other on the community front is Comcast Rise program. So you might have heard about Comcast Rise. It's our program for businesses to apply for either grants, tech makeovers, marketing, and those businesses are for those disproportionately affected by the pandemic. So women-owned businesses or businesses owned by people of color or BIPOC communities. We just announced earlier this week $1 million worth of grants that have gone out the door, that are headed out the door, $10,000 grants for 100 Twin Cities businesses that applied. Our tech makeover and our marketing is still available for folks and for those small businesses owned by women and people of color to apply till October 14th. So I really want to, I have materials on that too, get the word out. If you work with some of those small businesses, they can apply for those. The tech makeover is amazing. It's valued about $10,000, and they can come in, evaluate the broadband, evaluate the various pieces of technologies, whether it's iPads, computers, all those types of things. And so we really encourage people to get out and apply for Comcast Rise. So that's kind of on the community front. On the state and local front, I want to let you know we're working really hard on grants and build out grants. So the state of Minnesota has opened their application for broadband grants, and those are due at the beginning of August. But Washington County also has some broadband grants out there, and we've been successful in working with the county on some of those grants, specifically for this group, Great Cloud Island. It's got a piece that they've been wanting to be built out. We were successful in getting that grant accepted by Washington County, and we are just in the legal review phase of that so that we can agree to terms to make that grant possible and hopefully build that out by the end of the year. That's our goal as soon as we get those legal terms worked out. But we are also continually looking at where there are gaps in our network and what we can do to build those out. And we know that the state will continue to have grant funds available. We're working very closely with the county, and I know some of your communities are things that we're looking at. We've hired kind of a third party to make sure we know where those gaps are as we move forward. So I think that's the big pieces on the straight GAM parts. It's my understanding, and Mark let me know that you guys were curious about the franchise agreement. We are working on the franchise agreement. I checked in today on that. It's my understanding that there's been a lot of different moving pieces and parts as to, the FCC 621 order and subsequent appeals, and making sure everything is understood as what's included in the franchise fee and what isn't. And then also, again, that request and desire to build out Great Cloud Island, which we're going to be able to hopefully take care of here. So we hope to move those things forward and continue those discussions. That's kind of my update, but I'm here to answer any questions too.
Sure, thank you so much for that summary and the info. We do have a couple questions, at least.
Yeah.
Megan, thanks for coming tonight. I was just kind of curious, and you may or may not have the information, but, you've got actually your, was it the X1 programming and so forth in a streaming mode and in the hard cable mode. And I was just curious what the balance of those two are these days and what kind of trends you're seeing.
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know that I have that answer, but I could probably let you know. I do know that in general, our hardwired cable connections tend downward, but I don't know on the X1 what they're looking at. So I'm happy to take that back
Okay,
and ask about the X1 platform.
great.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
Thanks for being here tonight. I wanted to ask about the Comcast RISE grants.
Yes.
We have a friend who lives in town, our friend Shaletta Brundage, who's been working in partnership with you on delivering the good news to some of the grant winners. And it's my understanding that you have, I think, 100 grants available, $10,000 each. How many have been granted thus far?
So we just announced all 100 of those on Tuesday for the
Okay.
$10,000 grants.
Okay.
So the application for those closed in June, but we do still have open the technology makeovers as well as the marketing consultations. And that includes working with our media groups on how to get out there and have local commercials in some cases and those types of things.
Okay, fantastic. So you've awarded the 100 grants.
We have.
Is that published?
It is.
Okay, wonderful.
And I'll share that with you. I apologize. There's actually a website where you can look up and use any of those.
That would be great. It's a really generous program, and I think Comcast deserves a lot of credit for working so hard to do that. And if you've met Shaletta, you know that she makes coffee nervous. I mean, she's pretty high-strung, but she's very excited. And so we've heard a lot about it, but I wasn't aware that the grants had all been already awarded. So that's very exciting news.
They were just announced on Tuesday, so it's new news, if
Okay.
you will. And similarly, so you might have heard that we revamped and remodeled our Woodbury store and had a grand opening last week for that location. If you haven't been in, it's amazing.
Yeah, I think I saw some pictures of a ribbon cutting of
Yeah.
of some sort. Yes.
Absolutely. And our caterer was Duck Donuts, which is one of our Comcast RISE
Even better.
recipients.
Okay.
So we love to use those recipients and those businesses over and over again whenever we find possible.
So the reason I kind of brought that up, other than just to congratulate you and say thank you, is, for Mark, maybe that's a opportunity to interact with some folks who come from, the BIPOC community who might be able to give us some advice or perhaps even partnership on our Community Voices grant. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Yeah, and I will connect you and show you where you can look up, especially ones that are in your area.
Yeah, there's an opportunity for some really good synergy, I think. Thanks.
Great. Any other questions? I had one. Can you tell us a little bit more about the Great Cloud Island grant? I know you said you're still negotiating the terms, but what additional details can you give? Because when we discussed this quite a while ago, the expense to the residents was very large, and I'm just wondering, approximately what will that look like for them now?
Yes, so this will allow us to build out to their homes. And I will want to double check my numbers. I think it was a $140,000 build for those 7 homes. 70 will come from us and 70 will come from the Washington County grant. And so though that stretch there on Geneva Avenue should be taken care of.
Excellent. So no cost to the homeowners at all?
No cost to the
That's really great
homeowners.
news for them.
Except for to subscribe and be great customers.
Yes, well, they better buy the premium package then. Okay. Okay, well, if we don't have anything else, thank you so much for coming. And then all that information you mentioned you have, is it in paper or will you
Yep,
be able
I'll
to
leave some
follow it
paper
up
that you can
in?
pick up, but I will also leave my business card, so if you guys ever need anything, feel free to reach out. I try to be as responsive as possible to any questions you might have. I know, like, we've been working on that Newport build, and hopefully they turn it on here soon. I think they're in the last moments. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, well, with that, we'll turn to our legal report with our attorney, Mike Bradley.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good evening, members. My legal report is in your packet. I have other items to report on later in the agenda, so I'll reserve my time to do that at a later time.
Excellent. All right, we will now move on to unfinished business, and I'm looking for the auditor's Harrington Langer Associates report.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair and Commission Directors. Pleased to introduce our CPA, Anna Anderson, with Harrington Langer Associates to provide the 2021 financial audit.
Thank you, everyone, for having me here tonight. Again, I'm Anna Anderson from Harrington Langer Associates. Our firm performed the audit on the December 31st, 2021 financial statements, and tonight I'm going to review the annual financial reports with you. On pages 1 through 3, we have the independent auditor's report. This is a little bit different format than in prior years. It actually starts out with the opinion. We've issued a unmodified clean audit opinion, meaning the financial statements are fairly stated in all material respects and in accordance with accounting principles. This report also details the responsibilities of management at the bottom of the page. The next page talks about the auditor's responsibility while performing the audit. And then we have information on the required supplementary information that's provided. There's a budgetary analysis as well as schedules for different payer contributions and pension liabilities. The last paragraph talks about the report on internal control that we issue as well. On page 4, we have management's discussion and analysis. This portion of the report really highlights the key financial information of the organization, as well as the operations and the activities during 2021. Most of my report we're going to just kind of cover in this section. It has a really good condensed version of the financial statements themselves. The first part talks about the basic financial statements. We have the statement of net position. Increases and decreases in net position really provide a useful indication of whether the health of the organization is improving or deteriorating. The next schedule is the schedule of revenue, expenses, and changes in net position. And the last report is the statement of cash flows. And this provides details on the change in cash and investment balances. Some of the financial highlights of the organization. As of December 31st, 2021, the commission had a net position of $3,888,000, of which $2.4 million, almost $2.5 million, represented the amount invested in capital assets. Also, $1.4 million was designated for capital equipment replacement. The commission's net position increased almost $50,000 during the year, and this is attributable to higher than budgeted revenues. The table here at the bottom of the page is a nice comparative summary of the organization's net position for the last few years. We have your assets. They increased from the prior year by about $27,000. Deferred outflows, these are related to the pension plan, and we'll have details of this in the footnotes. We also have your liabilities listed. The decrease there in liabilities of about $110,000, that's mainly due to just timing of payments. The deferred inflows of $263,000. And then we have that net position at the bottom of the page. $2.4 million invested in capital assets, 1.396 is unrestricted. Overall, that total net position again increased by almost $50,000, meaning you have a very strong net position and significant liquid assets. The next report, that changes in net position, starts with the program revenues of the organization, your general revenues, and total revenues of almost, or 1.7 million, a slight decrease from the prior year. Expenses of the organization were $1,687,000. We take the revenues minus expenses, we get that change in net position of about $50,000. The bottom of the page talks about the different sources of revenue of the organization, mainly franchise fees as well as PEG fees, similar as prior years. The major expenses of the organization continue to be wages, benefits, occupancy, as well as franchise fee reimbursements and depreciation. And in 2021, the commission was able to return just over $311,000 to its member cities. The commission's capital assets as of December 31st were just shy of $2.5 million. And during the year, they acquired $429,000 of new equipment and leasehold improvements. When we look at the budget comparison, revenue was approximately $130,000 higher than expected, and expenses were approximately $20,000 over budget. That concludes the discussion analysis. Now we're going to look at the actual financial statements where you'll see some more details. Again, we have the assets of the organization totaling $4.6 million. There's a breakout of the liabilities. The accounts payable and accrued expenses, that's mainly that return to member cities that was calculated for 2021 but paid out in 2022. And again, net position at the bottom of the page, $3.8 million. Statements of revenue, expenses, and changes in net position. This provides a little more detail for you on the actual operating expenses of the organization. The majority of them are fairly consistent with prior years. And as I mentioned, salaries and payroll are some of the largest expenses of the organization. If we break out the expenses by month, it costs about $140,000 per month to operate the commission. And when we look at your reserves, it looks like you have about 10 months of unrestricted reserves to operate. And in average, we see anywhere typically from 3 to 6 months. So again, you have a very strong position. The next report, the statement of cash flows. This report reconciles the increase in cash and investments of about $30,000. We start with the cash flows from operations, and then we subtract off the acquisition of capital assets. And you had a little bit of interest income, leading to that net increase in cash and investments of about $30,000. Are there any questions on the financial statements before I go on to the footnotes? Okay. The footnotes span multiple pages. They provide details to the financial statement readers. Note 1 describes the organization and its policies. It also lists a lot of definitions and required language required by government auditing standards. So I'm going to scroll through a lot of this onto note 2. Your deposits and investments. All of your deposits and investments are fully insured as required by state statutes. The only investments held are those in the 4M fund. Note 3, your capital assets. There's a table here that shows the activity for the year, the beginning balances, as well as the additions we talked about. And there were no disposals during 2021. The bottom of the page, note 4, the defined benefit pension plan. This footnote also spans multiple pages, pages 15 through 21. It provides details on the Public Employees Retirement Association, or PARA funds. Skip over some of this. For those that don't know, PARA provides retirement, disability, and death benefits for employees. And the Commission's contributions to the General Employees Fund for the year ended December 31st, 2021 was $36,167. And all costs that we see in the next few paragraphs, all of these are actuarially determined and measured at June 30th of 2021. The bottom of the page, the Commission recognized pension expense of $23,679 for its proportionate share of the general employees' pension expense. The table on the top of the next page just shows the same information that we saw in the financial statements, just broken down a little bit differently for you. The deferred outflows of resources, we saw that listed as an asset, and the deferred inflows, we saw listed as a liability. On page 21, it shows that these estimates are really sensitive to market conditions. So if the discount rate was changed even 1%, it could drastically change the pension liability that needs to be recorded. If it was 1% lower, you'd have a liability of $574,000 versus 1% higher, only $41,000. The next footnote, borrowing arrangements. The Commission maintains a credit card account, which they can borrow up to $42,900. Advances on this line of credit, or the credit card, were about $2,000 and were included in accounts payable as of the end of the year. Note 6, as mentioned previously, $1.4 million was designated for capital equipment replacement. Note 7 provides the details on the franchise-free reimbursements to the member cities. And Note 8 explains that there's a facility lease in place for the organization, and the table there shows the future commitments for those liabilities. All right, now we're going to go ahead and skip over some of the supplementary information. Page 29 is our report on internal control and compliance. We found 2 deficiencies. They're the same as prior years. There were no issues of non-compliance found during our audit. I'm going to skip ahead and I'll tell you those deficiencies. The first one, similar to prior years again, we had that lack of segregation of duties, mainly due to the size of the organization and the number of office personnel. You just can't adequately segregate those duties. You do the best that you can with those that are available to you. So our recommendation as your audit firm is just that the board continues to provide oversight and review financial policies, as Mark said you were going to do tonight, and just really overview that process of putting together the financial statements. The second deficiency was with the financial reporting process. We're required to disclose to you that we have drafted these financial statements based on information provided by management. And again, it's very common to organizations of your size. There's not really an issue on our end. We're just required to disclose this, that we've done it ourselves. And again, we just ask that you continue to monitor that process, review the financial statements that are available. Any questions on either of those items? Okay. Then we're going to quickly look at the management letter. This letter is required communications with management in regard to our audit. It mentions any significant audit matters that there were. No new accounting policies were adopted during the year. And as I mentioned previously, all significant transactions have been recognized and the financial statements are fairly stated. The last paragraph on this page describes the estimates related to the pension plan. And also happy to report we had no difficulties encountered in performing our audit. There were no unusual corrected or uncorrected misstatements. Any audit adjustments that we had were just standard entries. And we had no other audit issues or findings. And then this concludes my audit or presentation on the annual report. Do you have any other questions for me?
Thank you so much. Any questions?
Thank you. I just wanted to touch on one of the deficiencies because you did mention that the same deficiencies were pointed out in last year's report, which I recalled. And the primary concern that I have is the segregation of duties. And the reason I bring it up is as a city here in Cottage Grove, we had a similar deficiency that was pointed out to us in an audit last year. And so what we chose to do in that instance is we hired a part-time individual to help ensure that that deficiency did not carry over to the following year. And, we were successful in doing that. Granted, we're a much larger organization than SWCTC. So my question is this, understanding that your recommendation is that the board continue to provide diligent oversight, is this a deficiency that you feel requires any additional action on the part of this body relative to the way in which we're currently staffing and sharing duties, et cetera? Or are you confident and comfortable that the current processes that are in place, even though the deficiency is pointed out, are sufficient for an organization of this size?
I don't feel that the body here needs to provide any other oversight or anything, or make any changes inside the organization. I know any staff changes would be much more beneficial to your programming side, right? And you don't want to have all this back office or people just, more on the administrative side. So it's not a concern to us. I don't think anything extra needs to be done. It just needs to be pointed out to you that this, according to the AICPA, that you don't have the number of people to aggregate or segregate those duties necessarily. But I don't suggest anything additional needs to be done at this time.
Perfect, thank you.
Great, good question. Any other questions?
No.
Go ahead.
So in terms of our financial position and having, 10 months of operating in reserves and so forth, I know that the policy has kind of changed and things like that. And right now, I believe I read we're looking at making another change down, or have we been at 6 months? Reserves.
We did a second return that will be allocated to this year's finances. So we have drawn it down, and we did a second return earlier this year for 2022, which isn't in this report.
So my question is from a financial situation, and a few years ago, we went through this all because, with Comcast and some of the changes and things like that. I don't think, we've seen some reduction in revenues and so forth, but we haven't necessarily seen that cable is going to go away. At one point, there was a significant potential of risk, something happening that we just didn't know type of things. But from a financial situation, and maybe, I don't know what you think, is it something we should continue to bring down, or do you think it's having 10 months is good? You put a positive note on that.
Well, having 10 months is definitely good. Like I said, typically we see anywhere from 3 to 6 months. As you mentioned, there was a time there where it was in question, right, of what's really going to happen with cable subscribers. You haven't seen that significant decline. It might be worth, kind of hanging on to things for a little bit just to see if there's any dip in the economy or anything like that that might also impact those numbers going forward.
Okay, thank you.
Do we need to accept the audit, or is it just purely informational?
You need to.
Okay.
Yep. we'll
I'll
accept
be
it.
looking for a motion to accept
Move we
the audit.
accept the audit.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the audit is accepted. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay. And our next order of business is the financial policies.
Madam Chair, before we continue, I just wanted to add to Commission Director Thedy's question is that we are currently at policy right now. We voted as a commission earlier this year to reduce our reserves to our policy, our stated policy. We're currently at policy, which is six months.
All right, is it a combination of 6 months and then also the?
It's actually, yes,
capital.
you're right, and the capital piece too, which,
Is that what's putting us at 10 months then in terms of financial reserves?
Yes.
Associated with operating?
it's essentially 10 to 12 months if you take the two components together.
Together,
Yeah.
all right. Thanks.
And then, Madam Chair, I'd like to ask if I could take a step back a little bit, because I skipped over our other staff reports that weren't listed on the agenda, but were part of my report, if that's okay.
Yeah, I think that's fine. We don't need to move for that or anything, do we? All right.
I apologize. We also have special staff guest, Elena Myers here, who recently won an Alliance for Community Media Award, a Hometown Media Award in Chicago. I was there to accept the award as well at the ACM conference. Mike Bradley was there as well. And so I wanted to hand it over to Elena Myers to talk a little bit about her work and the video.
Excellent. Congratulations.
Hi, good evening. Yeah, as Mark said, we won an ACM, and this was we had a group of videos called Made in Cottage Grove, which was a combination between ourselves and the city, as well as introducing ourselves to the industrial area and finding out that a lot of the places they were hiring, and a lot of people didn't know exactly what they did. They're doing amazing work out there, but a lot of people don't even know what they do. Renewal is the biggest one. Obviously, they know what is going on there, but there was also MA Performance, Advanced Corporation, Avica, CCE Technologies that we made videos for. And MA Performance is a group of passionate brothers, actually, that started up this company, and they moved to Cottage Grove a few years back. They expanded their building, and they're looking to potentially expand in the next few years even, they were talking about. So they really wanted a quick 2.5 to 3 minute video really promoting their business, as well as introducing themselves to the community for anyone that didn't know about them, as well as speaking a little bit about their connection with Cottage Grove and how they allowed for the expansion of their company as well. So yeah, we won an ACM, that's Alliance for Community Media. So I was gonna share that with you guys tonight.
Excellent.
Or do you have any questions ahead of time? Anything? All right, I'll play this for you.
Here at MA Performance, we manufacture and supply products and aftermarket parts for numerous different makes and models of cars. Most of it's targeted at the Japanese import cars, such as Mitsubishi, Subaru, Nissan, Honda, and we even have some domestic parts as well. So if you have an aftermarket need, whether it's an exhaust, an intake, a tuner, anything that might make you go faster, stop faster, or turn quicker, feel free to give us a call. What we really pride ourselves on is we kind of brought a higher level of customer service back into the aftermarket performance scene and really specialize in making it enjoyable to modify your car, whether it's getting you the right price on your parts or getting you the right parts the first time around, and really just making this passion that we all share as car enthusiasts enjoyable and really just helping people be able to push the limits. And we kind of say we are helping people build their dream cars, and we're kind of the guide in that. Both of the founders grew up in Cottage Grove and graduated from Park High School in 02 and 03. So they wanted to get back into Cottage Grove. We knew we wanted to be down by our home city a little bit closer. We bought this place in October of 2012 is when we moved to Cottage Grove from our old Plymouth location. The expansion was one of those things where we had another opportunity to look at leaving Cottage Grove, and all along the way the City Council was able to work with us and help us to remain here and to keep our business here, and been very thankful for them because they allowed us to grow and to continue to be in our hometown, which we're very grateful for. We've owned quite a few world records, whether it was in the Mitsubishi Evolution platform back in like 2008. We held some world records. More recently, we set a new world record for the quarter mile with the Honda Civic 1.5 turbocharged engine. But across the world, we are well known for not only providing that excellent level of service that we set out to create, but we've also began manufacturing some of the best quality products that you can get for the money for numerous different platforms. And between welders in the back, I think those guys really think of it more of as an art. And they're proud to see their work, and they kind of have a signature that goes on to every piece we make with a serial number, so they know who made it and they stand behind kind of that art that they build. So we have varying degrees of what it looks like to be successful within MA Performance depending on your role, but we all do have a unified goal of making it easier for the consumers to modify their car and allowing them to build their dream cars without the pain and hassle that used to plague us as enthusiasts for many years until we felt like we got into the business. Right now, we're on the cusp of breaking 100 total employees, but here in-house in our Cottage Grove facility, we have about 80 full-time employees. We have about 13 job openings, so if you are in or around the Cottage Grove area, we would certainly love to meet you, and we'd be interested in how you would like to apply your talents here at our business. We come together as a team for one reason. Like a pit crew is to have the fastest turnover on that car to get them back out in the track. For us, it's to get you your parts as fast as humanly possible at the best price possible. We'd love to help you out with your car and to help you build your dream car the right way the first time.
Any questions or?
Very good.
Awesome. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, Elena. One of the big takeaways for me at that conference, at the ACM conference, was economic impact. How do community media centers make a community impact, and how's that measurable? Some centers do such things as job skills training, and so that's something that I'd like us to take a look at, going forward is, at least documenting what videos we're doing, what productions we're doing towards the city's economic development. It'd be hard to qualify. It'd be great if we could determine their pitch for their recruiting, hiring, if they actually gained some employees because of the video. It'd be great to get those kind of statistics, but that would be hard. But at least we can start measuring how many videos we're doing towards economic development. Now I'd like to hand it over to our content manager, Ann Schweisguth. Is Ann still on remotely with us?
I am still here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. Good evening, everybody.
Hi.
Like Mark mentioned a little earlier, that I just wanted to talk about some community engagement we've been engaging in. Last Thursday, we were out at the Schoolie event. If you're not familiar with Schoolie, it's run by Community Education, and they have a bus that comes out, I think, 4 different nights at different areas in South Washington County. And on Thursday nights, it is at Armstrong Elementary in Cottage Grove. And they give out free food to families, and they have events and activities. And the city of Cottage Grove asked us if we would come out and be an activity on this night. And we said, sure, it sounds like a great idea. We brought out a couple cameras and a monitor. We gave some kids a microphone, and they did some reporting. And they had a really fun time. There's a lot of great talent out there. That's what we found out that night. Lonnie and Bob did a great job engaging the kids and getting them to talk. And some of them, it was hard to get them to stop talking. So that was a lot of fun to see. And their parents were pulling out their phones and taking pictures of them. So we thought that was really successful. And we also brought our cameras out to shoot the event. And they had the Cottage Grove Police Department out there with their canines, and the SWAT team was there. So it was a very successful event, and we had a good time. That's kind of one of the things we've been doing. We also were at the Woodbury Community Expo in April. We were at the Woodbury New Resident event in May. And so we're trying to keep that going and keep those touch points with the community, let them know who we are. And that's kind of what we've been up to there. And the other thing I wanted to mention is everybody knows we have a new government producer. Her name's Nikki Johnson, but I wanted to give you a look at Nikki so you could see what she looks like. And if you see her around town, say hi and introduce yourself. I'm sure you'll get to meet her at a future meeting here. But Nikki started at the end of June and she's doing a great job. She's really fitting in nicely with the team, has a great work ethic, and is producing some really good stuff. So she seems happy to be here, and we're very happy she joined us. So that's all I have for you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Ann? I just had one, and for this schoolie event, do you guys have any plans of turning that into a little video or working with Schoolie to advertise their event?
I think that's a great idea. We should put a little promo together for that. One of the reasons we shot it this year was so that we've been doing a lot of shooting events that we haven't shot in a while so that we can promote those in the future as well. But I should look into how long that event's going on, and then that would be a great idea.
Right. Yeah, I think there's at least a couple more weeks, so should have a couple chances.
Great, good to know.
Yeah, great recommendation, yes, thank you. And then, well, Lonnie Garland is here to give a technology report. We should have the WWE music going for his entrance.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, we're in a couple of hats tonight. Lots of things happening. We've got the playback system in. We've pretty much got all the bugs worked out. We're still working on some closed captioning things, but it's very nice to have a system that's a little bit more user-friendly and does some new features like closed captioning, video on demand. I'm still working on the Roku app, but we're actually going to have an app that you can download on your phone, and you'll be able to see SWCTT on the Roku app. So we're still building that. We're putting our logo on it and all that stuff, but that should be coming out soon. So I'm excited about that because we're going to have our own app, which is kind of cool. Newport is pretty much done on our end. We have all the equipment installed. We actually fired up the cameras in the chamber, made sure everything worked. Comcast left. I was going to ask them when they're going to have my fiber hooked up so I could test my network. But as far as that goes, on our end, we're ready to go. Their first meeting is scheduled for next Thursday, a week from today, actually. So we'll see how it goes, but hopefully, fingers crossed. If for some reason we can't get a connection there, we'll do it the old school way with a Wi-Fi hotspot, and we'll still stream it live from their new building. Matter of fact, we can't use the old building anymore because our equipment's gone. We salvaged what we could, and the rest went away. So I can't remember the last time we did something in that building, but I believe it was Mark, 2005, I think is what I found was the last time we'd done anything in that building. So they were in desperate need of some new equipment. So
Lonnie's been duct taping and band-aiding.
I literally had a rubber band around a button to keep it on, and I'm not kidding. Yeah. So, but the nice thing about that now is they're caught up. They have HD cameras. We're broadcasting that in HD. So all of our cities are in high definition now, except for when they get to Comcast and it goes to standard def. But that's another story. Let's see, what else?
Not on the Roku, though.
Not on the Roku, no. The Roku should be, and not on video on demand. We have a video on demand channel as well. And YouTube will be YouTube will be 1082, yeah. So, actually, it's 720. Comcast prefers a 720 HD signal, and a lot of broadcasters do it in that because of the movement of sports and stuff. But it's still HD. So, I can't think of anything else right offhand. That's pretty much it. Any questions?
Wrapping the Europe.
Yeah. We do, real quick, we do have some service hours with AVI. I have a service contract with them. We do have a little bit of money left there. So there's some things I want to clean up, some firmware updates and stuff that I'm going to use to do that at different sites in the cities. Other than that, yeah, things are going well, knock on wood. So All right. Thanks, guys.
We also have our new website too that we're going to launch sometime after September too. It's nearing completion as well. So, okay, thank you for that.
Yeah, I'm glad we got to hear all of those and saw the award-winning video, so
Yes.
worth the going back. And so now we are on the financial policies.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair. Before you is the list of financial policies and the HR policy coming up that we reviewed with the executive committee a few weeks ago. And so we're going to run down this list that's in the memo here, starting with the administrative spending policy, and I'll hand it over to our attorney to walk us through that.
All right. Okay, so we have, I think, about 4 policies to go over, and the first one is the administrative spending policy. And with that one, when we went back and reviewed the policy, we went back and looked at the joint powers agreement. The joint powers agreement actually identifies how the administrator is to spend money, and he's to spend it according to the state statute for statutory cities. And that allows the administrator to spend up to $20,000. And as a result of that, and through discussions with the executive committee, their recommendation to this body was to actually repeal the current policy and just simply follow the joint powers agreement and state statute for administrative spending. And so if that's agreeable to this body, the motion would be to repeal the existing administrative spending policy.
Would it make sense for us to take these policies one at a time then, and have discussion on this one, or do you want to go through all 4 of them?
No, I think one at a time would
Okay.
be good.
Okay, so any discussion on the administrative policy?
In the packet, I did include the current administrative spending policy, so you could see it from 2008. And then the following document is the recommendation, as Mike just said, to, and highlighted in yellow, oops, where is it? It must be further down, sorry. To point the operational function to the joint powers agreement and Minnesota statute. So I have that.
I do have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
So I see, let's see, there's administrative spending policy. What page is this? I don't know if it has a page number, but it's saying 5,000, let's see.
Here we go. I'm bringing it up
Kind of
here.
a
This is the,
like an original. And then going to executive committees at 25. But you say the JPA is 20, or the statutes are 20,000?
Correct.
But then I also see the current policy is 25? What was 25?
that was an older draft version of it. The current policy is
That was a
5.
draft.
Yep.
From 17.
Yep.
Okay. So there was a couple different parts to that policy and it was statutes. There was the spending limit, and then there was a limit at which you have to take it to the executive committee. So what do statutes say about that? Anything, or is that just open?
Yeah,
Like-
the executive committee won't approve expenditures. They'll recommend expenditures to the full body.
Okay. All right, so basically, what it changes to then is just that anything under 20,000, the executive director can go ahead and approve and proceed with, without taking it to any to the board or anything.
Correct. But eventually, it gets approved by the board.
Okay.
It gets disclosed and approved by the board.
But he doesn't have to wait.
Correct. You can do it immediately.
Okay.
Okay, anyone else?
I move that we repeal the current spending policy and revert back to the statutory spending policy as recommended by the executive committee.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that policy is repealed.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commission Directors. The next up on the memo is the credit card policy, and that's being tabled until our August Executive Committee meeting discussion. Meeting compensation will also be teed up, if you will, for our September meeting. However, our attorney and myself included the ordinance that we're proposing, the Executive Committee is proposing to enact for meeting compensation. So Mike, do you want to, any additional comments?
Yeah, so when we reviewed the meeting compensation, the authority for meeting compensation really comes from an ordinance. So you'll think back, for those of you who are on the city councils, you actually approve your compensation, mayor's compensation, the council's compensation by ordinance. And following the same statute, essentially, we'd be doing the same for this body as well. So if it's the body's intention to have a meeting stipend, then they should do it by ordinance. And so that's why that draft ordinance is put together. The executive committee, I don't think, has made a final recommendation on that yet. And there's still some information that the executive committee is gathering. And some of that includes polling all of your member cities to see how you compensate other commissions, particularly other joint power commission directors, so that when this comes before the executive committee and ultimately before you, you'll have a very good understanding of how your member cities deal with compensation for all of your commissions. So you know if you're doing something unusual or doing something that's being done across the board with your member cities. And then they will review the draft language that was in your packet for tonight's meeting, and ultimately make a recommendation to the full body for the next cycle. So if you have any other information that you want to provide to the executive committee, I'd encourage you to contact your executive director or a member of the executive committee, so it can be taken under consideration at the next meeting.
Any questions on that? No.
And just so you know too, if the decision is to recommend approval of an ordinance, we'll have to publish notice of that ordinance a little bit earlier than we normally do our commission packet. So if you see your packet coming, a week earlier than normal, that's why.
The current process we have in place that allows for per diem is done without a ordinance in place. Are we okay to continue that way, or is it strongly recommended that we have?
I would
it?
advise against that.
Okay. Any other questions on this? We can move on to
You don't
the.
need an action, right?
No.
Right? You don't need
Correct.
a table.
There's no action to take tonight
Yep.
that we're recommending anyway.
So are there any other ones for tonight, or was that the four?
The last financial policy is the reserve
Okay.
policy, which in your packet is pages 65 and 66. On 66, there's a section at the bottom that's highlighted, and that's what the executive committee is recommending. And Mike, if you want to elaborate on that.
Right, there's really not much more to say about that. The executive committee just wanted this reserve policy to be consistent in language to the return of value policy. And so we attempted to do that through the highlighted language. So we do recommend that this policy be adopted as amended.
Okay. Any questions?
I would move that we adopt the changes in the reserve policy.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor, say
Aye.
Aye.
opposed. Okay, that modification has been approved.
Thank you.
And now we are turning to the next item, which is another policy, this one on the HR flexible workplace.
And Madam Chair, this has been in your packet for a couple of months now, or a couple of cycles, I'm sorry. And really, there was just some very minor work done on some of the language to make sure that it wasn't conflicting with other policies. And so you'll see, there's just a couple of places that we highlighted in yellow in your packet to, those were the areas that we were looking at to make sure that they were consistent. And with those changes, we recommend the adoption of the flexible workplace policy. This is a new policy, by the way, for the commission.
So the changes are on pages 75 and 76 of the packet. And highlight there. Essentially, sick and vacation time must be taken in a manner and time increments prescribed in the SWCTC Employee Handbook. And flexible workplace arrangements are only available to regular full-time employees with a positive recent performance appraisal and employed by the SWCTC for a minimum of 3 months, have a satisfactory attendance record, and consistently demonstrate the ability to complete tasks and assignments on a timely basis with limited supervision. And so that had originally been in previous drafts blank and then 1 year, and we are now recommending 3 months.
Any discussion? Go ahead.
Perhaps a silly question, Mark, but as it relates to this policy specifically, have we double-checked our work to ensure that all of the language included here is consistent with, Society of Human Resource Professionals and any legal elements in the state of Minnesota so that we aren't creating a policy that is in opposition to perhaps state statute, et cetera?
Yes, Commission Director Olson, our attorney, had reviewed it as well as League of Minnesota Cities.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Yeah, I know with flexible workplace, that's sort of become a real hot button issue since the COVID-19 pandemic, and there have been literally hundreds of changes to the way that municipalities and other governmental agencies are actually handling that. And that could result in some confusion pretty easily. And I just want to make sure we checked our work so that we don't end up having to redo the policy again here in another couple of months. Thank you very
Yes.
much.
The original template was from the city of Woodbury. That's where we started. And then based on your previous recommendation that you had given, we went through those extra steps there.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Recording stopped.
Yeah, another good question.
Okay.
I'll move to approve.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That policy is approved.
Do we need to check on Lonnie? Is he okay back there? Poor guy's running
He must have
around
thought the meeting was over.
Yeah, right.
No, we have. So one more topic. We are going to move on now to new business. We have the 2022 budget amendments. We have one related to City of Newport and one related to the City of St. Paul Park. Are we going to take those individually or are they combined?
Combined.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair and Commission Directors. Wanted to put this amending the budget before you this evening. You may recall that we had originally allocated $190,000 in capital for City of Newport for this year. When we approved the budget, which was in October, because we didn't know exactly when the expenses were going to land for the City Hall installation, that ended up expending last year. So I'm recommending that we amend the budget for the city of Newport, decreasing it from $190,000 to $20,000. We still have some expenses, as Lonnie mentioned, regarding some of the fiber work that we're allocating for this year. The second piece is that the City of St. Paul Park, Commission Director Downs approached us with a project that the city is considering, and in doing so, we would need to increase the City of St. Paul Park's allocation from $4,000, increase it to $10,000, and it's, I'd like to just hand it over to Commission Director Downs, if you'd like to add.
No, I attended the executive committee meeting,
Yeah.
the last one, and it was just a request from Mr. Walsh, the city, and Jeff, their technology guy, and Michael. Just, there was some desired improvements at the city hall, and we also had some additional requests for heritage building, but really focusing on city hall. I guess my abbreviated sales pitch was, we're trying to bring the Danforth community room and make it more serviceable and usable in case we have overflow for city council meetings, or we sometimes put on, we had our comp plan 2020 there. It'd be nice to have some additional technology and some additional usefulness for that room. And it's also a room that the community is allowed to use and to rent. So, like I said, we'd like to at least bring the facility up to the floor, not necessarily to the ceiling. So it just makes it more usable, it makes it more serviceable, and we're just a request to the commission, which we appreciate the commission considering it and making a budgetary accommodation for us.
Thank you. Any questions for Commissioner Downs? Okay, so I think we will be looking for a motion to approve both budget amendments together.
I'll move that we approve the budget amendments.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, those budget amendments are approved. The last item on our agenda tonight is any commissioner comments or requests. All right, with that, I'll be looking for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Any discussion about that? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned.